Here we go. Yes. Uh, all right. Well, welcome to Paradigm Shifters. Welcome, Paradigm Shifters. This is September 14th, 2021. Do you believe it? That we have been on this journey together for, well, forever, really, but this Paradigm Shifters for over a year. There's well over 1,000 members, and we are so blessed to Transformation Tuesday, which is today, to bring different people, topics in, and the topic for September 2021 is courage to change.
Mhm.
Mm, pretty powerful topic there, right? And we have a very powerful, well, to me, a very powerful friend of mine, Anna Shouse here. But I wanted to show you a couple things first. This is a card that one of my clients gave me. It says, if it doesn't challenge you, it won't change you. And I just found that too. And another thing I just found was a Chinese proverb that says something to my vision for even creating this whole paradigm shifters is one generation plants the trees, another generation gets the shade. So just by showing up, week after week and with the different speakers, we're planting the shade for the future generations. How's that sound? Sound good, Anna? So it's my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today, my friend, Anna Shouse. And Anna is a Unity minister at Unity of Austin. And the topic that we're going to discuss today is becoming willing to go forward. And we were talking about this time where sometimes we want to put ourselves on hold until the conditions. So come on in here, Anna. It's just a pleasure to have you speak with us. And my question is, I would also would love to take us a minute to honor the ministers during these last couple years and all the decisions and all the changes and all the like whatever. And I just wanted to honor you today. So come on in.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. Thanks a lot, Judy. I appreciate it. I was just delighted when you asked me to do this. So thanks. And it's good to meet all of you. Yeah, thanks. And that's great. You got over 1,000 people that are part of this. That's just amazing. Yay. That's really good. So I'll just start out. I guess that what was coming to me the other day or a couple of weeks ago was that the idea of being willing to go forward, even though the COVID is back in a sense, because the trajectory I had been on was, dealing with COVID like everybody else, I guess, and starting in March 2020 when we got, when it became clear that it was obviously a national and a global issue, and making those hard decisions regarding the church, just to close in-person services, and learning really, really fast about how to live stream. We'd already recorded the service, but how to live stream it and Zoom and do all these things. So we got up to speed really fast, and have been carrying on, and it's been fine and been like what it's been for everybody else. And then it was great though, like in May of this year, I took a trip. It was the first trip I'd taken since the pandemic started, and took time off and went to Unity Village up in Missouri near Kansas City and stayed for a couple of weeks, and it was great, and while I was there was when the mask could come off, and of course I'd gotten vaccinated, and it was like, oh, good, live, we're good, and coming back and having the expectation of being able to go back to much more normal activity myself personally, as well as at the church, being able to come back to in-person gatherings and making all those plans. And then I think, as we're probably all too aware, that basically maybe the third week in July, the Delta variant, the cases were shooting up again. And it's like, what? So it was like having to recalibrate and stop everything and go, oh, wait a minute, I guess not. And also the uncertainty about the contagiousness of the Delta variant. And nobody knew. I think I'm really aware of that in terms of the health authorities and the governmental authorities and so forth, that in this pandemic, they know a lot, and I do listen to them, I pay attention, but in the end, they don't have quote, quote, answers exactly, the health authorities. They're still figuring it out too. And I'm not saying that with any blame at all. It's just that it's life, get over it. You can't control everything. What a shock, right? So you can't even know everything. And so it was anyway, it was a period of uncertainty. And I guess and then kind of getting into the groove of that. And okay, so what does that mean? And so on and so forth, just in terms of activities, and what does that mean in terms of, calculating risk, and for myself, and in the role that I have in the church, and just thinking about all that. And what I recognized a couple of weeks ago was that it's almost like I was holding my breath and thinking, oh, okay, well, here I am again, here we are again. And we can't do anything. These ideas that we had about how we were going to go forward, no, you can't. You just got to quit. And so stopping with that and breathing, and, I'm not saying I was doing this real consciously. It was just like, well, what are you going to do? You can't do anything, and taking that time, to recognize, acceptance and awareness and action, accepting the facts of the situation, becoming aware of what's my response to that, and then making choices about action. And it came to me that I wasn't willing to put my life on hold. And that didn't mean to me that I was going to go out and run out in the streets without a mask or go breathe on people at the grocery store. It wasn't about that. It was about, what? It is what it is. I've dealt with a lot of things in my life that I obviously had no control over, things that I did not like, that I wish were different. It is what it is. So what are you going to do about it? So I thought, I'm going to live my life. I am going to live my life. And what that means for me is to really continue, as I have been, to deepen my relationship with Spirit, and to make choices on a daily basis. It's not so much about the outer. I still personally make a lot of choices to restrict my activities and so forth. It's about my inner feelings. It's about how I see myself. I'm like, no, life hasn't stopped. My life is very much present and alive. So how am I gonna let that flow? And it really made me realize, like with everything, that I'm powerless, but I'm not helpless, meaning I'm powerless over persons, places, and things, but I'm certainly not helpless. And that really made a good shift for me. It was like, okay, yeah, I'm good. My life's going forward. And there are decisions that, that I was in the process of making just about my life and such. And yeah, outer conditions have in some ways, impinged on that, and knowing that that's okay. It is what it is. And it made me think of it when you said that you had that proverb, Judy. It made me think of one that also came to me, I don't know, months ago, that I've been reading. I read it every morning. And I think Maya Angelou said it. Some people say it's attributed it to a Chinese proverb. I don't know. But it's that a bird doesn't sing because it has an answer. A bird sings because it has a song. Oh. And that made so much difference to me. It was like, yeah, I don't have an answer for this. And I got really sick and tired of trying to come up with an answer. I didn't realize that I was trying to figure it all out and solve it and figure, and don't you know that this whole virus is all my fault? And, that's, and it's like, no, I don't know. It is what it is. I'm in the world at this time. And here's what I can do. So the other part of that is how I view what's going on in our world is that that we are in a time of, I don't think that this is like a big newsflash to anybody, but we're in a time of obviously huge change. And how I contextualize that is that we are thinking about the big picture and thousands of years and spiritual ages or cosmic ages or however you want to see it, that we really are, we get to be here at the end of an age. We are at the end of an age. And meaning that the old ways of thinking, doing, that consciousness doesn't work anymore. And it was what it was. It served its purpose. But and there are a lot of ways to think about it, but it was real outer focused, material focused, at least in the Western world, of which I'm a part. And I'm going to share something with you in a minute here. But it also created a lot of exploitation of oneself, of the world, of other people. It was just, the age of exploration and exploitation. And it doesn't mean it was all bad. I don't go down that road either. It was what it was. It was a different era. It had its purposes. It was, but it's over because it's obvious. I mean, if we keep exploiting everything, we can't, the earth itself is getting poisoned. We're hurting each other. We're hurting ourselves. So it doesn't work anymore. So what I see happening is that we get to be here at this time. And we get to choose to go forward and to create what's coming, which is, to me, is spiritual values, not religion, but spiritual values of oneness, of connection, of aliveness, of participation, of circles. That's why I love circles of people. And that's what we're doing, is we get to let go of the how it was and participate in bringing forth what's at the deeper levels. And I look back at my life, and I have to say that I look back, when all this was starting, I guess a few years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago and such, and it was, it's been going up, but when it was obvious that, oh my goodness, exploitation doesn't work in a big way. That was getting really obvious. Anyway, I had a big resentment. I thought, look here, I've done all this work in my life. I've done my personal work. I have dealt with all that's happened to me in my life. And I have spent thousands of hours and thousands of dollars in therapy and sitting in self-help groups. And I'm tired of it. I'm done. How what's going on? It's like it felt like the whole that the family dysfunction was being experienced on a global level. I'm like, I didn't sign up for this. I was like, I'm going to do my work and it's all going to be good. And I'm going to finally have what I want. And God's laughing. I'm like, okay. And now it's becoming more and more clear to me that myself and everyone else, possibly, probably y'all as well as many other people, all of that work was what's created this, and all the work that people have done in so many ways of getting connected with their deeper life and getting connected with genuine values. And that's what's, I don't mean that we made it happen, but to me, it's an organic process. It was like, as people are connecting with the real depths of life, in biblical terms, or in Jesus Christ terms, the wells of living water, it's like the stuff that doesn't work. Obviously, it's all part of this organic process. So when I look around and I do get into despair about the suffering, and obviously there's been so much suffering, and it's always been, but it's been so aware of it. I process that and I get it. I was like, look at that. Everybody is standing up for themselves. Everybody is standing up, whatever place they had been mashed into in the old paradigm. They're like, no, I'm not doing this anymore. Forget it. I'm a human being, and get out of my face and get off my neck. Duh. So that's what I see happening. And so that the work that everybody has been doing at the personal level, sometimes it just feels like this like teeny weeny little threads. I feel like we're just teeny weeny little threads, and it's creating all of this shift, and it's going to a better place. Can I read you something I wrote?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So I'll read this. I wrote this back, I don't know when I wrote it. I don't remember anymore. Last year sometime. It's a prayer, and it's up on the Facebook page, on our church Facebook page, Unity Church Austin. And I pray it a couple of times a week with different people that I meet with on Zoom from the church. And I love this. And it's a prayer, and it says, "We are one with the upward progressive movement of life." And that term, the upward progressive movement of life, is one that is part of our Unity tradition. Our co-founder, Charles Fillmore, with his wife Myrtle, they co-founded what became the Unity movement in the late 1800s. And that was an affirmation that Charles Fillmore used, is that we are one with the upward progressive movement of life. And so that's where that idea comes from. So here it goes. So this is the prayer, and it's written specifically for the church, but you can, of course, substitute anything. So here it is. Mother, Father, God, we're open and receptive to all that you would have us be and all that you would have us do. During this time in our Austin community, our country, and our world, old consciousness that has restricted, harmed, and divided is being released. We participate in this chemicalization, and that's a good old metaphysical term, meaning the breaking up of consciousness, of old consciousness that no longer serves. Anyway, we participate in this chemicalization by our commitment to self-awareness, learning, compassion, and growth. We are one with the upward progressive movement of life. We participate in bringing forth a community, country, and world that express the Jesus Christ consciousness. And by this, I don't mean like traditional Christianity. Please don't hear that. I'm talking about the real Jesus Christ spiritual life. Okay. That express the Jesus Christ consciousness of love, abundance, and oneness. We participate through our commitment to expansion of our expression of the Christ, our spiritual nature, in, through, and as us in thought, word, and action. Thank you, God, for the gift of being present at this time in history. We are guided and empowered by your love. We hold this consciousness for ourselves and for all our fellow participants in Unity of Austin. We see abundance, love, and fulfillment for everyone in our Austin community, our country, and the world. We give thanks for a world of love, a world of abundance. And we affirm this prayer in the name and through the power of our elder brother and way shower, Jesus Christ, and the Christ in all people, by whatever name they call it.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I love that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much. What a gift you are.
Oh, thanks.
What a gift.
Thank you.
And I love the fact that, well, I love that prayer. Definitely gonna copy that on my wall.
Sure.
I love the fact that that you said that we're at the end of an age.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't heard that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so can you tell just a little bit more? And also for me at least, the endings bring up fear and this whole thing called grief. And
Yes.
for me, I want to make everything better for everyone. So can you but there's the end of an age and then the beginning of something new that we
Right.
have to create as a whole. So could you talk a little bit more about that and um, what you see as from your perspective, from your standpoint? I know sometimes I look and when everything happens, like the ministers have the answers, the ministers have the answers, and like where's God in this, all that. And so tell us about that. That's something for me to chew on there.
Sure, I will. And again, people see this in a lot of different ways, and some people that are really interested in astrology will see this as moving from the Piscean age into the Aquarian age, which we've been doing for a long time. I feel, and I honor that. I don't get way into the weeds with that in terms of the details of all of that. But I wouldn't disagree with that in a sense, but I'm not going to get real pegged into that. But I kind of think, yeah, I could see that as one lens to look at this through. I'll just say this and then I'll tell you what I think. But then another person, Emmett Fox, who was a great metaphysician. He was from Ireland, actually, and then he moved to the United States and loved it. And he was a friend of unity. He was a divine science minister, I think. But Emmett Fox, has written a lot of, he was active in the early 1900s and probably to the, I don't know when he passed, I think maybe in the 1940s, I'm not sure, but he wrote a lot of books. And so he wrote a whole one chapter, it's probably an essay pamphlets about the new age. So he's got his ideas about it. And again, he kind of pegs it to the astrological age, which again, I don't disagree with. I like what he says, but also a lot of people are saying this. I mean, the whole, you can look at a lot of different indigenous cultures or a lot of different ways of understanding it. So I didn't just come up with this myself, but to me, it really resonates that, and it's what, and how do I think this? Because life itself is indestructible. I mean, what gets changed and what changes is form, but that's a deep spiritual idea. I mean, any religion, when you get to the heart of it, when you get to the real spiritual core of it, will say that one way or the other, that life itself is ongoing, it's indestructible. But what changes is the form of things. And so I guess in India, I don't know much about this. I guess it's in Hinduism. They talk about the ages. And this, I apologize to Hinduism and to India for probably getting the details incorrect here. But that said, I believe they call this age, or what we're going through now, the Kali Yuga. And that may be probably in some of the writings. Maybe that's in the Upanishads. Again, I apologize for butchering the details on this. But basically, it's saying that that life proceeds in ages, in great ages that are, like thousands of years long. And that when an age is coming to a close, it's basically because it's done its work, it's done what its purpose was, and then you will go through the dark times. And I think that's what they call the Kali Yuga. And so we're in the dark times, because the dark times are when things are ending, when everything literally is falling apart. The way that the institutions have worked, the way that the norms and the values, the expectations we had, the way that we relate to each other and to ourselves. And I mean, everything about how it was is falling apart. And it is scary. It's like an upheaval, obviously. Things aren't holding together. Who is it now? The poet T.S. Eliot, the circling gyre, the center cannot hold. I mean, maybe that's what he was talking about. Again, he was writing, I think after World War I, was writing that about the horrors of World War I. So in terms of ages, again, this is just my perspective with my limited, just aware of the last few centuries in Western civilization, Western culture, is that obviously we've reached the end of it. I mean, in terms of we've got lots of technical expertise. We've got the ability to blow ourselves up, to destroy the earth. I mean, we're good. We have figured it out, in terms of how to, everything got carried to the nth, which is, I think, what happens. It's not a bad thing. It's just how it works. That people take an idea, cultures take an idea, they run with it and take it to the nth degree and go like, whoa, look at that. I think maybe we went too far. Whoa. And and the good news is, because this is my own belief, it's my experience, so you don't have to believe it, but because life itself is indestructible, life will boomerang you back. It's like we hit bottom. Oh, got it. We hit bottom. And because a lot of my background is in recovery as a family member of people that have the disease of substance use disorder, I get that. Oh, we hit a bottom. Oh my goodness, look at that. Uncle so-and-so, died, and this and that and the other's going on. And I'm dying. My life is in the toilet here. So that's hitting a bottom when it doesn't work anymore. And you have a choice. You can either keep doing what you were doing keep going and your material life will become miserable and perhaps end, or you can make a choice to do something different, and I'm not saying everybody has the ability to make conscious choices. I don't believe that. I don't blame anybody for anything. Everybody's doing the best they can with what they understand. But you have an opportunity anyway to, if you can, to choose to do something different. So that's what I see happening in our world, is that we carried this age of Pisces, or however you want to see it, the age of exploration, the age of domination, the age of discovery, the age of dominating the earth, of figuring things out technically. There was a lot that was gained from that. And there was also like, wait a minute, in the process, we took it so far, we stayed too long at the fair, and we lost connection with our inner life. And so that's what's happening as I see it now. We've hit that bottom, and that a lot of people are going, whoa, I have an inner life. I have a spiritual life. And people have been doing that obviously on an individual level, always. It never stops. It never is completely gone, but it's happening on a large scale. What Emmett Fox wrote was that he believes that this is the time in history where a whole lot of people have the ability now to connect with their spiritual lives, where in the past, maybe it wasn't how he saw it. I don't know. Everybody didn't, but now more people do. And just for who knows, whatever reasons. And that's what's happening. There are also a lot of people that don't, that they're scared to death, and they're hanging on to how it was, this fantasy of how it was. And they're just dug in their heels, and, they're doing everything they can to go backwards. And it's like, well, I love you. And I can't help you. I can help you by praying for you, which I do, and loving you. But I don't know, you're clinging to something that wasn't even real. So for me, that's about the forward movement, is knowing that reality, that life is ongoing, life is indestructible. As I keep tapping into that, then I get to help create what's coming. And I'll tell you this too, one person that I enjoy listening to, I don't always agree with everything he says, but I enjoy listening to Michael Meade. He's a mythologist. He has a center up on Vashon Island, which is just is in Puget Sound near Tacoma, between sort of Tacoma and Seattle. And I just started listening to him online, I don't know, a couple of years ago. A friend of mine would post stuff by him. So I started listening to his podcasts and attending his webinars and so forth. And I like his perspective. He speaks of it as a mythic perspective. I would call it a spiritual perspective. I don't think he would really object to that, but I like a lot of what he says, and he talks about that. That's where some of the languaging that I was just using is coming from, is that he talks about the myths of the indigenous people, which he studied a lot with some indigenous groups, as well as read a lot, and all the different mythologies. So he speaks to that, and about the importance of in this time, how it matters so much to make the connection, the conscious contact with your own soul. What's your SOUL purpose to be here, to weave your own thread, because life is going on. So we have the choice. Am I going to hang on and just get lost in the suffering? Or am I going to go, okay, I get it, and process the suffering of myself and how I'm affected by others, and say, okay, and I'm here because I'm here to pick up my thread.
Right, great.
And I'd like to tell a story that he tells. Can I tell that story?
Yeah.
Okay. And I honor, this is a story evidently that's probably to some degree, of some version of it's common. The version that he tells is, as he says, it's from the White Mountain Apache tribe. So I want to give thanks to them for this story, and for the privilege of sharing it, probably not in all its fullness, but just to share a little bit of it. And it does, I think, show up in a lot of different forms and ways around the world. But the theme of the story is the old woman who weaves the world. And I think it's such a valuable story. And I won't tell it well like a good storyteller, but the gist of it is basically there's a cave, and there's an old woman that lives in the cave. And two things are going on in that cave. it's hidden. You can't hardly find it. It's way out in the boonies. It's very difficult, if not impossible, to find. But she's lived there forever. And two things are going on. Basically, one is that she's weaving a beautiful garment, which is the world. And the other thing that's going on is that she's got a big pot brewing on the fire that has within it all of the seeds and all of everything that, grows in the earth. And so, and she's very, very ancient and very, very old, and she walks very, very slowly. But she is weaving this garment, and it's beautiful. It's the most beautiful garment anybody's ever seen. And then every once in a while, she'll make her way very slowly back to the pot, and she stirs the pot so that it doesn't burn, and so that there is plenty, for to keep replenishing the earth. So in one day, when she left the garment on the floor that she'd been weaving and went back to stir the pot, she has a dog, and that dog usually just sleeps. But he noticed that she was making her way slowly back to stir the pot. And so he ran out, roused himself from sleep and ran out and ran over to the garment. And he was very mischievous, and he pulled a thread and he unraveled the whole garment that she'd been working on for so long. And it was so beautiful. So after she stirred the pot, she comes back and she sees on the floor where she'd been weaving for so long and working so hard, this mess of yarn and thread and porcupine quills that she'd been weaving into it, all in just a heap on the floor. She took a moment of weeping and despair, and then she picked up the thread and started weaving an even more beautiful garment. She got a new vision. Mm. And I love that story. Mm. So thank you to the White Mountain Apache people for that beautiful story. And that vision and that understanding is that the dog's always going to come out and unravel the world. That's how it is. That's what happens, because we get so caught up in how it is and how we think it is and what reality is, and we get lost out there in the material. And the unraveling reminds us that no, it's not about that. It's about the inner life and about the inner vision.
Oh, wow. Thank you so, so much. We appreciate you. And so what we're going to do is to send some love your way in your message and your community, and sending love and light to you, Anna. And what is it that you would love to have us hold for you and your congregation, and for all of us, really? What would you have us hold? And we're going to hold that energy right now.
Yeah, the joy in moving forward, the joy and the excitement, the enthusiasm, the vision, the courage to do the next right thing, to build the future of love and goodness.
Oh, and so it is. Here you go. Get ready to get it.
Oh, thank you.
And so it is. Thank you so, so much for taking the time to be with us and all.
For sure.
Love it. Yeah.
Thanks for inviting me. It's good to meet you all. Yeah, really. It's good. Good to see you. Yeah.
There you go. Okay.